Welcome to episode 3 of Reality Recap powered by CrossComm. We've got some fun stories today about Facebook's recent shift to Meta, some advances in Lightfield technology, and more. So let's begin with Facebook. This announcement to rebrand as Meta came at the tail end of the year. It comes as what was once just a social media site continues this massive shift to a tech behemoth, especially in the augmented and virtual reality world. Now, Meta is in line with their build to build a metaverse, essentially a world wide web for the virtual reality world. There's a ton to unpack here, but let's start with some broad thoughts on what this means for the industry and potentially one of the most affordable hardware providers in the game.
We saw it coming, right? Like everyone saw it coming. They bought Oculus, they started working on Horizon, and it was just bound to happen sometime or the other. And it's kind of a good thing it's happening because now all the big players will like go full stream ahead and go get into this, which is good for developers like us because a lot of other companies want to make more projects. So in that way, it works out really well. Uh, in another way, because they're starting so early, they're gonna have a monopoly like really quick. They already have a monopoly in terms of social media, like Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp. And they start doing this in VR. I don't know how easy it is gonna be for other companies to catch up if they aren't releasing soon.
I think personally that the idea of a metaverse is inevitable, meaning we already have proto metaverses right now that are not immersive, whether it be your massively multiplayer online role playing game like World of Warcraft, or even you could say Facebook is a virtual presence. Like many other people, I have extreme reservations about the idea of one single company running the metaverse. It's kind of akin to a single corporation controlling the internet. And granted, we already have only a handful of backbone providers driving the internet traffic. And so, the internet is not as diverse and robust as one might think with regards to like number of players involved, but it's provided this open standard and ecosystem for anyone to participate without having to pay too much of a tax. And I really think that um, open web-based standards for immersive experiences, web AR, web XR, and also an open metaverse is the next step for the internet.
A lot of good broad thoughts there. So the next likely question is, how do we get to an open path? Don and Yush both think it's likely a metaverse will be accessible via other devices like a phone or a PC, but there's bound to be some sort of balancing act to avoid a total market control here.
What we've seen in industry is one of two common scenarios where one player becomes the dominant player with regards to standards. So when there is a dominant player, oftentimes the rest of the industry will form an open consortium to basically counterweigh the incumbent and provide an open standard for additional players to come in. And basically, for the dominant player, it becomes us versus the world. We see that with like NVIDIA G-Sync versus AMD FreeSync. Or we see that with Apple's Lightning connector versus USB-C, which has become the standard for every other phone besides the iPhone, right? And sometimes when in that kind of scenario, the incumbent will either make a market mistake or slip or lose some traction, and they have to decide whether or not they want to take their proprietary route or cut their losses and then join the open standard that everyone else is a part of. And then the industry kind of coalesces around that open standard.
Okay, some really good insight there into a somewhat murky future. We're going to stay on this topic a little bit longer though. Meta recently bought Within. They're the makers of Supernatural. It's a fitness based virtual reality game. You may have seen commercials more recently for it. It's grown in popularity. Now, this appears to be a continuation of the plan to drive virtual reality to more of a general public. My theory is it's a gateway, basically, similar to how you didn't see a lot of people with spin bikes in their houses until Peloton became a thing. Take that idea and add to the fact that what if that Peloton bike could be picked up, put on, and all of a sudden you could use it for gaming, productivity, entertainment, anything else other than just fitness. That's what I think. The guys here think maybe it's just another stepping stone for content.
I was just gonna say I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to buy Beat Saber And then I looked it up and they've already bought Beat Saber. Now they bought Supernatural. So I feel like it's coming for a lot of famous apps or games.
I think that even if their metaverse idea it doesn't take off as quickly as expected, at least what they're doing is they're capturing the content, owning the creators, and basically locking it into their platform. And so, at the very least, they're going to be the leading VR platform for a while.
No doubt Meta has a good head start on the rest of the industry. So we're going to look outside of Meta now, moving on to CREAL. They're working on a super slick design to use high quality resolution light fields for headsets for augmented and virtual reality. Now, this is a little bit above my understanding, but essentially light fields fire light rays back at the eye at different angles and powers to sort of simulate depth better than just focusing on a fixed screen in front of the eyes, which is how most headsets work currently. So this would allow users to shift their focus from near to far objects within virtual and augmented reality, which is pretty cool. So how much does this tech really move things forward? Right now it's just like a tabletop unit, but they're promising something much more condensed in the future. Is this really a game changer?
It's a natural progression moving from regular VR and AR headsets to Lightfield technology. I don't know how accurate it's going to be, and I don't know how efficient it's going to be in terms of which headset will be able to use it, but it does look promising to have different focal points instead of just one in front of you.
I haven't experienced it myself, but I do wonder if that would start to play tricks with my mind and make the content more implicitly immersive or believable, and certainly more practical. I wonder if it would solve some of my headaches.
Solid point. It is hard to really gauge how much things could change until you actually have an experience with that product or with that service. So speaking of changes, Accenture, Walmart, Bank of America, several major companies at the tail end of 2021 rolled out virtual reality training programs en masse. Now, this shift lines up with the affordability of those Oculus headsets, the pandemic, a general shift to remote work. IT company Accenture's purchase was 60,000 plus headsets, which is the largest of any by far that we know of. That's a big lift, but it's also a big statement to see some of these larger, more mainstream companies like Walmart and Bank of America also rolling out these training units. This falls in line a lot with something Don's been saying for a while, that training is the niche for virtual reality.
At the very least, I hope that seeing this widespread adoption of cheap, relatively affordable VR headsets is going to really lower the bar in terms of risk taking by the business professional world in general on deploying immersive training so that people can learn not from reading a textbook, but rather through undergoing an experience and having a memory of that experience, albeit virtual. But depending on the technology and the investment of the training, the virtual can start to become akin to a real life scenario. So I still do believe VR and immersive training has the potential to transform training in every industry and vertical under the sun.
That wraps it up for this episode of Reality Recap, powered by CrossComm. Please like, subscribe, stay on this channel. We will keep rolling out this content for you as we move into 2022, and keep the recaps coming. Have a great week, guys, and stay curious.